Okay, so one of the first functions of Adobe Illustrator was manually tracing objects. Okay, if you look back at old, okay, start again. One of the first celebrated functions of Adobe Illustrator was the use of the manual tracing functions. Okay, and we're just going to be looking at those in some detail. Okay, so they're very straightforward. I've already shown you what the pen can do. Just to remind you, the pen essentially creates shapes or paths by adding several anchor points that can then be manipulated in order to create the sort of object that we want. Okay, so without even really trying too hard, I was able to use the anchor points and things like that to create a shape that could then be manipulated further to create an apple. Yep. Another good function would be the pencil tool. Specifically, if you have the object selected and then you hover the pencil tool over, you can then have an impact on the object itself. Okay, so the idea of creating a traced image of this apple is very, very simple. What we're going to do is we're going to essentially create different elements to it. And essentially it's just a matter of clicking, dragging as you go along so that you can mimic the contours of what you see. Okay, it's a matter of being strategic with where you place the points. It is sometimes easy, it's sometimes not easy to do, but before you know it, you can manage to do it. Now these will need some tweaking afterwards, I don't doubt. The majority of it will be fairly easy to do. If you're doing this, I would recommend always adding handles by clicking and dragging as you go along. That's going to be the easiest way that you go about doing this. So that's essentially the crux of it. Okay, so I have first of all an object. Okay, I can then change this if I want to the right color. I can get rid of the stroke as I like to do, and I can move on from there. Okay, so at this point in time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide that path. I'm just going to carry on drawing. So the next part I'm going to do is the stem. So I'm going to get my pen tool again. I'm going to zoom in this time. I'm going to hold space to get the hand tool up so that I can move along. So I can click and drag. As I said before, I always recommend clicking and dragging. What we're going to do, and I'll explain in a little while, is we're essentially going to just do it so that there's a bit of an overlap. We'll do that here as well. Okay, I'll change the color of that very quickly to a brown, and then I'll get to work on the leaf. Now this will need some tweaking because, as you can see, because I have a fill, it gets very difficult to actually see what's going on. So we'll just leave it like that for now. It's not necessarily perfect, but it will do for our purposes. Okay then, so we have 3 objects that we're able to create here. Now it's not necessarily perfect, but it shows us essentially what we can do. Okay. that's essentially it. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to try your own illustration. One final thing I'll do is devise a way in order to get this element going. So how can we go about doing that? Why don't we try duplicating this object. There we go. Command C and Command Shift V to paste in place. So Command C to copy, and Command Shift V to paste in place. Then that has given us another shape. We can lock everything else so that we're only using this shape, and we can go ahead and draw on this. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So essentially that has given us another element to it. So what we can do with the original file is maybe change the color of this file that we've got. Make it a darker color. And that is a potential solution. Another thing to do would be to perhaps add a gradient. And I'll quickly show that, but I'll show you gradients in another tutorial. Okay? Okay, so it's not necessarily perfect, but I think I've played around with it enough. There you go. There's essentially just tracing, manually tracing, and potentially some things that you can do with it. Okay, thank you very much.